When do you want me to begin? 7:45 or 7:30? I guess anybody who's here is here. No? All right. You know, at this we should have come to my house and just sit around on the living room. It's like small and intimate. But next week I'm going to be in boxes, believe it or not. Well, just sure. Just say okay. Okay, great. All righty. All right. I guess we'll start, right? Yeah. All righty. So thank you for coming. And last week, what happened? Oh, I was on this with the seniors from the school. They invited me to go with them on a trip. So we went to Deep Creek, and then we went to whitewater rafting at. Yeah, I'll come back in.
For Pittsburgh on the way.
Yeah, what's that called? Ohio Pile. Ohio Pile. So we went. It's fantastic. I've never done it before. So anyway, so I was with the kids. I'm sorry, but this week and we have next week still, and so Bezrat Hashem, we should have some fun. I will head through. I would assume that anybody who's here wants to be here. So I got what? 3 hours. Yeah. No, so I'll keep an eye on the clock, but I'll try to. We'll see how time is going at the end. I can always just really speed up quickly just to give you the feel of it. But the first thing we'll start. So what we're going to do tonight, like we did last time, is that we're going to first we're going to get oriented out there in Yerushalayim, and then we'll have a cryptic pasuk, a verse from Malachim, and then we'll go travel around the country, try to figure out what's going on. All right, that's the plan. Then if we have some time, we're going to go the opposite. We're going to head up to, instead of starting with a pasuk and trying to figure it out, we're going to head up to Arbel, take a look at some antiquities, and the antiquities themselves will ask us a question, what was going on, and then we'll try to explain possibly. So that's what we have on for tonight. So, Kacha. Arbel. Right outside Tiberia. When I show you the picture, you'll remember it from when you were young. Right? Cool. Everyone does the Arbel. Yeah, Har Arbel and the mount. I'll show you. The mountain across was called Har Nitai. Who says that park rangers don't have a sense of humor? But they called the next mountain Har Nitai because of Nitai Arbeli. Yeah. Okay, let's begin. All right. So tonight's lecture we're talking about Hasharim Shel Melech Shlomo, the gates of Melech Shlomo. That's good. Now in English, in Americans. How do you say this? By the way, I'm just curious. What's his name? Yigal Yadin, of course. Americans go Yadin, right? Yigal Yadin. So then it doesn't rhyme. But if you do it in Hebrew, a gate, a ravine, and Yigal Yadin. So yeah. Aloof. In a lot of ways.
His father.
Even more. Sukenik.
Huh?
Sukenik.
No, his father was a professor of
archaeology. So this is him. After he was the aloof, he went back to being a professor. His father even more. Yeah. Okay, here we go. Just let's get us back into our places. So we know this already, right? Here's the Temple Mount. This is going to be the valley, Kidron Valley. And you can see it's very steep over here. And that's why they don't build on it. It's very, very steep. We discussed this actually last time. This is 2 weeks ago. We talked about this area. Here's the Kidron Valley. Over here is going to be can you see that? That's the Kotel Plaza. And it actually runs, this road runs around like that. And that's going to give us the city of David in the middle. Let's go back. Again, we're going to go back 3,000 years ago. So here's the Temple Mount with Shlomo's temple on it. Kidron Valley. And from here, it's going to be the Tyropian or the Central Valley, Tyropian or the Central Valley. And it has City of David. Not much has changed over 3,000 years, right? Gay Ben Hinnom would be if you,
There's a tour there.
yeah, Char Yafo. In other words, if you came out of the Temple Mount, out of the Kotel, you went up into the Shuk, and then you hit Char Yafo right over here, this is Gei Ben Hinnom right here. And this valley of Hinnom actually comes around also, and it meets up with these two right about over here, and then heads down towards the Dead Sea. Okay, so this is what we're going to do. So now let's go back 3,000 years, all right? Boom. So we're 3,000 years ago. Again, the valley of the Kidron Valley, over here, the Tyropian Valley, city of David. Here, it's the Jebusites. And over here, you could see it's a little bit of a gully. And on top of here is Mountain of Moriah, which is going to become the Temple Mount. We discussed 2 weeks ago in length, talked about the Jebusite city and the Gihon Spring and how David got in. All right, so we're not doing that. We did that 2 weeks ago. But what we're going to talk about is right over here. So this is what David finds. Melech David, he finds the Jebusite city. He captures it. And then Melech Shlomo, what's Shlomo going to do? Build the Beit HaMikdash right up here on Har Moriah. And also this area, which is a little bit of a gully, he's going to fill in. How do you say it in Hebrew to fill in? Lemalot, yeah. So this we're going to call the Milo, this area. So let's take a look. That's what we're going to start out with right now. We're going to go back to, again, the city of David. And here's the temple. This is King Shlomo's temple, first temple. And this area over here has to be filled in. And that's what we're going to look at. In other words, today, the same area is going to be, here's going to be, again, the Temple Mount and on Har Moriah. And this area, here's the city of David. It means this area is we're going to concentrate on. We still have it. Let's take a look at what remains in this area from the times of the Beit HaMikdash, from the temple times. So, okay, if we're going to go, here's the southern wall, the southern retaining wall of the Temple Mount. So let's go right in over here and take a look. What do we still have left over? And it's amazing how much stuff we still have left over. This is a simple 2,000 years ago, the end of the second temple. But we have things that are left from 3,000 years ago from King Solomon, which is like, when the UN starts discussing who has a history in this area, like we should just take them on a simple tour. It's not so hard. It's right there in the ground. It hasn't gone anywhere. So you take a look over here. This is going to be the retaining wall, the southern retaining wall. And take a look. We got these stairs. We'll look at those in a second. And you can't see it in the slide, but you can see a couple of arches right over here, 3 arches. And we'll get back to this in a higher resolution. Let's take a look at the stairs first. So these are the stairs. All right, let's go back for a second. In other words, back in the day, you would have come up these stairs and you would have gone into the doors. There's doors over here, gone into the doors and gone up onto the Temple Mount. The Muslims over the years closed this whole thing down. That's what it would have been like 2,000 years ago in the temple time. Now, let's take a look at the stairs. Okay, what do you notice about the stairs? What? It's what? This goes to the Beit HaMikdash. Oh, so that's going to be Shar Malot in the Beit HaMikdash, right? Right? These, you're right, they go in twos. A small step, or not, small step, and then a large step, small step, large step, small. They're not uniform. Why would you make stairs like this that aren't uniform? When's the last time you looked at your feet when you're going downstairs? You ever look at your feet? As you're walking downstairs, we never look at our feet, right? We just, because if you start looking at your feet, thinking about how you're stepping, you'll trip. We're not used to it, right? That's how it is already. But so when you do this, what do you have to do? Look at your feet. If you're looking at your feet, what happens to your pace? Slows you down. So they used to say that the reason they slowed people down, they're all going into the Beit HaMikdash, into the temple. They used to say, why would you slow people down? Crowd control, right? So many people, crowd control. What's the other possibility though? So you want to say lower head as far as kavod. Very nice, very nice. Like there's no right answer to these, right? I never heard that. That's a good one. I'll remember that. Kavod. I'll quote your name. All right. Kavod. They say like you're part of the same, like in the same theme. People are getting so excited. They're running into the Beit HaMikdash. So one thing, yeah, it's good to be excited, but what's another thing that comes along with coming to the Beit HaMikdash? Yira, a little bit of fear, a little bit of recognizing. Take a step. Wait a second. Think for a second. You're going up into the temple, so it demands a certain reverence. And it could be that's the reason that it would slow people down, to give them a chance to think what's about to happen. So this is very cool. We have the stairs have been recovered, uncovered. Look at this. Those are the arches, right? The stairs lead up into these arches. So today it looks like 3 arches. It's all sealed in. The Muslims have the stairs going up, and the Muslims over the years. I have to research it, who put it in at what time. But behind them are stairs going up, and this is what it used to look like. Right here you have the Kidron Valley. This is the southern retaining wall to the Temple Mount. You'd have stairs that would lead in. Then it was 2. Now it is 3 arches. And then you also have on this side, the left side, another same thing. In other words, this was called Hulda's gates, because the prophetess Hulda used to sit between the gates and help people answer questions. So that's what we still had. This is what it looked like then. We still have it. We could see remnants of the Beit HaMikdash. What people used to walk in here on the right side and then circle the Beit HaMikdash and then come out over here on the left side. And here, this is the left side. You could still see the lintel that would go in. Now, today is a building built in front of this, but you still have that, which is the parts of the building. And this is Gemara Masechet Midot. All who entered the Temple Mount entered by the right and went round to the right. It's counterclockwise. Went out by the left, save for one to whom something had happened, who entered and went around to the left. This is like Jewish sensitivity, Jewish Midot Tovot. Good cat. Why? Because if everyone's walking in one way and there's singular people going the other way, so then everybody says, why do you go around to the left? So if he answered, because I'm a mourner, they said to him, may he who dwells in this house comfort you. This would be it is capital Hey, right? That God could give you comfort. There was somebody else who walked around in the opposite direction. Who was that? What? A chatan. A chatan also walked in the opposite direction. And why are you walking? I'm a chatan. It's probably pretty obvious, but he's I'm a chatan. So then they would give him a bracha, that Kadosh Baruch Hu, the God who lives in this place, should give you a bracha. Very beautiful. Like we're good. I'm into Jews. I like Jews. We like Jews, right? Jews are good. They have these things that Baruch Hashem, that's sensitivity. That's the chesed. So this is what happens over there. This whole area, okay, this was the stairs. These are where the doors would have been, and it would come up someplace around over here. You'd come out from the staircase. But this whole area has been excavated over the last, not that long, number of decades. Starting in 1967, right, after the 6-Day War. There's a famous fellow named Bin-Nun Mazar, famous archaeologist. His granddaughter, Eilat Mazar, where is she? We'll get to her. That's this whole area. They dug it up. What's important to us, this was filled in. This is called the Milo, from the word to fill in. Shlomo builds up this area. And a lot of this stuff, this remnants over here, comes back to the first temple, to the time it dates back 3,000 years. 3,000 years is the time of Shlomo HaMelech. And we know this goes back to his time. Not only that, right over here, we also have, this might be second temple, but we have, what does this look like? Anybody want to take a guess? Right in the middle over here, you would have had a wall going up. It's not fair, I don't show you what's the bottom. This is a mikvah. Around the base of the Temple Mount, it is way over 55 mikvaot. Why do you need so many mikvaot? Because before you go up on the Temple Mount, you might be tahor, you might be pure, but it doesn't make a difference. Before you go up on the Temple Mount, you have to go to the mikvah. So you have thousands of people coming, you have probably hundreds of these. Why do you suggest, why is there a wall in the middle? It's broken now, but it used to be a high wall in the middle. Oh, so that's what you would think, right? Only problem is when you get to the bottom over here, there's only one pool. Yeah, so I don't know if it's going to work so well, but that again, there's so many people. What you're going to do is coming down is going to be for those who are impure, and then they go into the water, and then coming up is going to be for those who are pure. You got to keep things moving, and the proverbial. You don't want to rub shoulders with the wrong person. right? That's like over here. You don't want to bang into the person who's coming down, who's tamei. So this is so beautiful. It's right in front of our face. We have it all. This whole area, this is Eilat Mazar. She's digging up that same area continued from her grandfather. And this is what she's pointing to is actually gates, the gates to this area that date back to the time of Shlomo HaMelech. You know, they found pottery and enough, I guess they do carbon-14 on it, that they know this goes back 3,000 years. This is the Milo. So I want to show you this because this is going to bring us into the following pasuk, which we're going to have to try to figure out. And this is the matter of the tax levy which King Solomon raised. He gave taxes. So I understand to build the temple of the Lord, understood, right? Why you would have taxes. We're good with that. And his own house, the palace, we got it. And the Milo, we just saw it. That was important. And the wall of Jerusalem, got it. And Hazor and Megiddo and Gezer. So what's the question? There's a lot of cities in the land of Israel. What's significant about these three cities? And that's what we're going to have to figure out. And nowadays, because we know how the land works and we know we've done excavation, we might have an inkling. Yigal Yadin, who's a premier archaeologist, we'll try to figure out why these three cities. And this gives us an opportunity to tour around the land, and then we'll come back and explain the pasuk. So let's go back way back centuries ago, millennia, and let's just get ourselves again. We have to get acquainted to the area. What do we have over here? This brings us all back to high school. So what do we got? The green areas. This is going to be, right, the Fertile Crescent. Remember that term from high school? In other words, where are the empires back in the days, in the biblical times before? Well, you got the Nile, you got Egypt, and then you come up along here, Eretz Israel, Lebanon, and then as you come around, here's the Euphrates. So we're going to go into what's called Mesopotamia, Babylonia. Today it's going to be Iraq and Iran. That's going to be all this area. This is all has water. And this is the empires from the ancient times are all in this area. Because now you want to, if you have a large empire, you have empires over in Babylonia, Mesopotamia, and you have an empire down in Egypt. What do you expect to see between the two empires? Trade. Oh, fighting for sure, all the time. And on peaceful times, you're going to have trade. How are you going to get from this? How are you going to get from Egypt to Babylon? You got to take this bridge. You're not going to go through here, right? It might be shorter, but obviously this is desert. It's going to be desert. You're going to have to go through the land bridge. Which is the land bridge? Eretz Israel. God set that up like that, right? Because everybody has to come to us, come through us. When we're good, because Baruch protects us. And when we're not so good, we got our problems because you're going to have either Egypt attacking, or you're going to have Aram attacking, or Ashur attacking, or Bavel attacking. You know, everything's got to come through here. So this is the thing. So I'm going to probably do this. If I'm going from Egypt to Mesopotamia, what am I going to do? I'm going to try to go up along the coast. And at some point, I want to cut across. In other words, I'm going to come up along the coastal plain. This highway is called the Via Maris, going by Maris, marine, the water. So I'm going to take, this is the major highway. Truth is nowadays, Kfi Sheish, in Israel, they have the one toll road, Kfi Sheish, that's along the same lines exactly as in a lot of places exactly as the ancient highway. How come? Because that's Highway 6. It's right here at the base of the mountains. Over here they have today, it's called Highway 2. Back in the days, you wouldn't have built along the coast. Why not? What do you have along the coast? Huh? Why do we go to Tel Aviv? Yeah, well, what's the coast look like? Beaches. It's all beaches. Go build a highway on a beach. Nobody built on the beach. So that's why today we have modern technology. So we're able to build Highway 2. And there's actually Highway 4 goes like this. But back in the day, you had to be inland enough at the base of the mountains. Right along here was the old highway, the Via Maris. And we have Highway 6. That's what's called Highway 6 today. So if I'm coming up, I got it. I'm going up along the coast. So at some point, over here's Damascus, right here. How am I going to get? I have to, at some point, cut. Here, I'm going to hit the Carmel Mountains. At some point, I'm going to have to cut across the country. So where am I going to cut across the country? This is all mountains. I have this mountains over here, and it continues up, and then it goes towards the Carmel Mountains. So where can I cut across the how do you cut across mountains? You have to look for the mountain pass. So let me ask you something. You ready? I forgot my candies. Next week, I'll try to bring candies. All right? Anybody could identify this spot. This is a trick question. You're good. You're good. Did you know that? Yeah, take a guess. This is actually, you should know this. This is your backyard. Shenandoah. Right? This is Shenandoah. See up on the mountain. Great picture. Great picture. This is Shenandoah. Okay, I'll give you another one. You ready? Anybody grow up in New York? Okay, so here we go. Close though. Anybody who's grown up in New York and is going out to the Poconos for camp in the summertime is going to have to pass through the Delaware, Delaware Water Gap. This is, they always send us canoeing. The only thing I've ever done is canoeing on the Delaware Water Gap. It's so boring. You know, after half an hour, you say, how long are we supposed to be in these canoes? It's like 3 more hours. So boring. But that whitewater rafting was pretty good. That was fun. But this is it. But take a look. There's a locomotive that's going over here. You know, you're always going to build your highways along the gaps. You know, it's the mountain pass, obviously. That's the only way to get through the mountains. You're not going to build a highway that's going to go over the mountain. It's too hard to climb. And this is the easiest path. Okay, with that, we understand that. That's just the way the world works. So with that having been said, now, where are we? I'll give you a hint. We're back in Eretz Yisrael. All right. Yefeh. Yes, exactly. This, my friends, is Highway 1. Famous Highway 1. Out here's a little bit more of the coastal plain. You're going to come in over here. And you notice it is, here it's soft, but then the mountains start getting deeper, taller, and then it starts becoming a real mountain pass as you head in. What? You'll have, when you start over here, there's not that much. It used to be Arab villages, but oh? Eshtaol is going to be on the way towards Beit Shemesh.
Why? Because when I live in Israel,
yeah.
there's a walk, right?
From Eshtaol to Beit Meir.
From Beit Shemesh to Yerushalayim, 3 days.
Because of God, not yeah.
We walk 3 days.
Yeah.
And the fourth one, 10,000 kids, you know.
Yeah.
Wearing pants and white shirt and galim and
Hayu Yamim. Along the way. That's right. And tell me this, like if you're coming up here, does this sound familiar? You're going to pass over here, Shoresh, Beit Meir, Shoresh, Kiryat Anavim, Telstones, a little bit, that's newer. And then it's going to take you in towards Mivaseret. What's down on the bottom?
I was there last week.
So that's so you could see the road, right? That's the road we're taking over here. That's Highway 1. Now this is still when it's 2 lanes in either direction. Now it's 3 lanes. Anybody who's been in Israel in the last 2 years or so, it's 3 lanes in either direction. It's a sign of the coming of the Messiah. The way into Yerushalayim is just beautiful. And they just last Pesach opened up another tunnel, right? That you could go from Mivaseret, Motza, and you cut in a tunnel that takes you straight towards Shari Tzedek. You don't have to go to I haven't been at the Knisa Le'ir. I haven't, the curvy roads all the way up. I haven't been there the longest time because you don't have to get involved in the traffic up there. It's unbelievable what's happening. Baruch Hashem. Anyway, but this you see, this is a mountain pass on the way to Yerushalayim. Where does this play heavily in the history and the establishment of the state of Israel? There you go. Latrun. Notice this. Now it's even clearer when the Highway 1 heading up towards Yerushalayim from the middle of the country or from Tel Aviv used to be 2 lanes in both directions. This really was there was a time before this. I'm not sure what year this is. It's kind of, you can see from the car, it's kind of old. This used to be 1 lane. It was nothing until 1948. There was nothing much there, but you could see how it's getting steeper and steeper. This is actually Shar Hagai. This is where it's still a little bit broad, but you see that the road is going right into the mountain pass. And in a short bit, it starts becoming, you're very much deep in the bottom of the pass. Now, what's the thing like this? If you're an empire or something, if you hold on, you have to hold on to your passes. Why? Two reasons. Anybody? Why do you want to hold on to the mountain passes? Look from the top, and if you have the top, then you control the bottom. Strategic, right? It's a military strategy, military importance to hold on to your mountain passes. You control all of anybody. Once you're over here, you have greater control. Nobody's going to attack you. Nobody's going to get up into the mountain areas. What else? If I have a lot of merchandise that's traveling from Egypt to Mesopotamia, and I put up a mountain pass, I hold the mountain pass, that means I could put up a toll. That means I can make big bucks. And if I make big monies, then I can make an army. I get stronger and stronger. We'll see from Hazor in a second. That's how Hazor was always a king player in the biblical times, because I'll show you his mountain pass. So this goes back to the fact that going to Yerushalayim, you have to pass this. So this is what, believe it or not, and this would be a great other lecture, but when we were given in the partition plan of 1947, what's that? Chavtet in November 29th, 1947, when we got the mandate, or when the UN agreed to have a partition plan and split Israel into an Arab state, into a Jewish state, all we got was what's this area with the black hatched areas. That's what we got. It was a nothing state that was easily, penetrable, and you could cut it in half. It's a great other discussion. But as soon as we declare, right, on May 14th, we declare independence. On May 15th, the Arabs, 5 Arab states are attacking. And there's not much, it's really amazing, but we really, after by the end of June, we basically lost the war. We lost the war of independence. We didn't, the British had made sure we didn't have enough armaments. It was a military rout, except for some reason, Baruch, the UN requested that there should be a ceasefire, like a break, a ceasefire, take a break for a month. For some reason, the Arabs decided to go along with it. The Egyptians are right over here, right? They're 20 kilometers outside of Tel Aviv, right? The Jordanians, the Iraqis, the Syrians. It's like, look at how deep the Lebanese are coming in. It was over. But they said, okay, for some reason, the Arabs agreed to take a month break. We don't know why. During that month is when we started getting those arms coming in from Czechoslovakia, of all places, with the blessings of Stalin. Go figure, right? Leiv Melachim biyad Hashem. God controls what's going on. So that's when we started getting the armaments, and then we were able to get an air force, and we were able to fight back. So Chazdei Hashem. But the thing is, if you take a look, what you have over here, look at this. Yerushalayim's over here. Yerushalayim's supposed to be an international city. And you see this little bit, this is how Yerushalayim is connected into the rest of the country, a little bit of a corridor. So this is what's happening in 1948. We have 100,000 Jews in Yerushalayim. The Arabs just push to connect up over here. They'll cut off Yerushalayim. We lose Yerushalayim. To his credit, Ben-Gurion said that we're not going to start, after 2,000 years, we're not starting a Jewish state without Yerushalayim as our capital. So we lost a quarter of our men and women in 1948. A quarter of the casualties was in the battle for Yerushalayim. We lost 1,500 soldiers out of the 6,000 in the battle over here. Because these guys are under siege, and we had to bring our trucks and caravans up through the corridor, which is Highway 1. And that's an awful task, because you had to go through this. This is 1948. You had to drive up something like this, and the Arabs just would grab we made caravans filled with food, because 1,000 Jews, we had to keep them fed, because otherwise we'd lose the city. So people used to band together and try to make it through. It was terrible. The drivers of these things said that they could barely hold on to the steering wheel, because they knew that it's a good chance they're not going to make it. So their hands were shaking so much when they entered into the entrance to Highway 1, or what's called in Hebrew today, we call it Shar Haggai. Then it was called in Arabic, Shar is Bab El Wad. That's the Bab El Wad story. Oh, it's a note, right? Look at this. This is what the Arabs did. You just roll stones down onto the road and you block them off. And here's the caravans coming through here. The Arabs are up on top over here. It was terrible. It was terrible. And this is like pictures of the Chayalim before they went in. This actually, if it works, we'll see if it works. That's the famous song, Bab El Wad. Shar Haggai, Lenetzach Zechorna. You should remember us forever, the names of the people. Caravans that are breaking through to come to the city. And on the sides of the road, our dead are thrown. And the steel structures are just quiet on the side. Yeah, that's a memorial. These are the people in Jerusalem just waiting for rations, for water, for food. We almost lost Jerusalem. Then it gets into the Burma Road story, which some other time. There's always more to learn. Okay, and those are what you mentioned, the trucks. I remember when I first got to Israel, some of you will remember that they used to be still thrown on the side of the road as they found them. Since then, they've sort of lined them up and they made it like more of a memorial. But all right, so that's going to be here. It's Bab El Wad is right over here. The entrance to the Vadi, the mountain pass is right over here, and you go up towards Yerushalayim. That's in this part of the city. Now, our challenge is that we're coming from Egypt, coming up along the coast, and we want to get across towards Damascus. So how are we going to do that? So we got a couple of places. Over here, we see Nahal Iran. Here's a mountain pass. Today, this is called Highway 65. Bring back memories. Get through the mountain pass over here, and this is Afula, and it's going to take you down towards the Kinneret. So let's take a look. All right. In other words, if I'm coming up the coast, I want to get through it. Here's a mountain pass right over here. All right, and it takes you into the valley of Jezreel. The Jezreel Valley is the middle of the country. Let's take a look. I couldn't resist. It's a great picture. I think I could say it's anything, right? But you could see this is the highway, Nahal Iran, Vadi Iran, and it goes through. Here it's a little bit low level. Here you got, so what is protecting? Here's Highway 65 coming out of the mountain pass. This is a little bit of a natural hill, but built upon it, 25 layers of different civilizations. This is known as Megiddo. All right, this is the famous Megiddo. This is if you have your army up here, then you control the road below over here. This road is coming out of the mountain pass, going towards the east. It's going to go right through the valley of Jezreel Valley. See, it's a beautiful valley. This valley is right in the middle of the country. You control the mountain pass. You control everything that's going on in the middle of your country as people try to cross over. You also get a lot of taxes. If we're over here in Megiddo, in this old ancient place, if we're in Tel Megiddo looking towards the east into the valley, and you look over the valley, what do you see? Famous mountain, a little bit of a bump. Har Tabor, right? I should have brought candy. I really should. This is Har Tabor on the other side of the Jezreel Valley. Now, Har Tabor is also very important, very strategic. Where's Har Tabor come into play? Anybody remember from the Tanach? Shirat Devorah. That's where Devorah and Baruch sets up their troops on over here before they go into attack. What is that? Lama Ben Mishpatim. Yeah, that's right. That's right. Har Tabor. On the top of Har Tabor, because it's such an important thing in the Bible. In Israel, you'll find a lot of places that over the millennia, the Christians took over tops of these areas. So if you go to the top of Har Tabor, look at the view you have on the surrounding areas. Commanding view. You have Har Tabor. It's a very good strategic spot. There's this on the top. They put this is a newer church, but you could see it has a certain structure. It has like two major facades in the front over here. This is one of those, like, I just threw it in here. Why? Because when I was studying for my tour guide test, tour guide course is 2 years, used to be 2 years. And it's a cumulative exam at the end of 2 years. So people take off like 6 months to study for it. I was teaching, I couldn't take off. I had my 2 months in the summer. And then I was trying to do it on the side, but I had to cut places, right? So I didn't have time to study Christianity in its length and all the denominations, all the stuff. I did know that as soon as I walk in, right, and the beard, they're going to ask me Christianity. The government was going to ask me that. So I studied the last week of Jesus and his up in the Galilee. I studied certain things I thought, and that was it. That's all I had time for. Walked in, the first question they asked me is, talk a little bit about the church on the top of Har Tabor. It's a new church. Yes, it is. You are right. There's some old buildings. Yeah, there are some older buildings over here. When you first come in, this is newer. Who put it together? A fellow named Baruch, right? That's the architect. So they asked me the question. I'm telling you, I remember I got goosebumps. I felt like tingling down my arms, and I scared them. I got so excited they asked that question. I like jumped at them, and I started going on. I said, yeah, Har Tabor, yeah, put together by a fellow named Baruch. He's into like thematic architecture, 2 major facades to represent Eliyahu Hanavi and Moshe Rabbeinu, and as if there's a transfiguration of the prophet and the lawgiver into, their religion. There's a whole speech on it. Why? Because I didn't know that much about Christianity, but 6 months prior, I got an assignment in the class to write up about Har Tabor. So I knew that's the one thing I did know. They asked me Har Tabor, I gave them an answer, and then they left Christianity. Yesh Elokim Gadol Vashamayim. Can I tell you? So I just put Har Tabor up there, but it's the other side. So you have to pass by these places. If you back over here at Megiddo, so you're going to come in over here and you have to hit this area over here. This is the entrance to the city. What do you think these structures are? It's going to be the entranceway. This is going to be the defenses. The weakest part, what's your weakest point in the city? Obviously, the gates, because that's where the enemy's going to break in. All right. So what kind of gates do we have over there? And this is really interesting. Your standard gate from way back, this is how the old gates look. This is outside the city. So you'd have on both sides, right, a tall tower with soldiers on the top shooting down. Here's the gates. Enemies come, you close the gates in. But in addition, if the enemy would break the gates, in this you have over here a little room, and over here another room, and then walls, another gate, and then a room with soldiers and another gate. Most of these gates to the cities, what's known as a 1, 2, 3, 4-chamber city gate. And that was your protection. You have soldiers waiting that in case the enemy comes through, they're going to come out and try to push them back, and you regain. The one in Megiddo, which dates back to the time of Solomon, Shlomo, has actually an additional chamber, 6-chamber gates. And there were those who said that this was unique to Shlomo HaMelech, that he was building in major cities. He was building in Megiddo. He built a 6-chamber gate. Why? Because how important is Megiddo? You're controlling the whole center of the country. So you had to beef up the fortifications. And that what we find over here, this is an illustration, but what we actually find when you go to Megiddo is, here's the gate area. Let's get a better shot. You come in, the gate area, here would have been the tall structures, and here's one chamber. I'll get you some other pictures. And as you go through the gate area, you have different chambers along the way. They fixed up some of the area. You come on in, 1 chamber, 2 chamber, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's the chambers. That's Shlomo Melech's building over here. They said, oh, wait a second. This is an important city. Where else do we have an important city which lays on the roads? Well, let's go over here. Right over here. Anybody remember this area is called the Golan Heights. This area is the Upper Galilee, Tzfat. In between, you have a nice valley. Anybody remember this one? Right? Upper Galilee, Tzfat, Kiryat Shmona. This is the Golan Heights. In between, you got a beautiful, beautiful valley called the Yefeh, the Chula Valley. Right? Chula Valley. Chula Valley is with the stories about the 1920s draining the swamps, the malaria. That's Chula Valley. This is what it looks like today. Right? We're sitting over here on what's called Ramot Naftali, looking across the valley at the Golan Heights. Beautiful. Even better. On the hills of Naphtali, then you go into the bathtub here, the Chula Valley, and this obviously snow-capped mountain of Hermon. That's where we're at. This is the Chula Valley. Now, if you could, and what's famous is that it becomes a, today it's a bird, it's a path for the migration of birds from Africa to Europe in both directions, in the summer, in the spring and the fall. Over 500 million birds come through. It's a big thing. That's another story. And it's just beautiful. It's a beautiful area. The guy who goes and researches, now the city which is controlling this valley is known as Hazor. Anybody know where Hazor comes up? The first one I'll give you. In Sefer Yehoshua, the major battle, the king that causes, that gathers an entire coalition of cities from the north against Yehoshua is Melech Hazor. That's where you're going to hit it, because you're coming down from the mountains and the valleys in front of you. Hazor controls the mountain. You control Hazor. You have Hazor, you control everything. You get a lot of taxes. That's why Hazor, the king of Hazor, is always the major player. That's why if you go to Sefer Shoftim, Melech Hazor has an army that has 600 chariots, which is like tanks from today. If you have 600 chariots, then you have like a good general. Anybody want to give the name? It starts with a sis and ends with a ra. That's Hazor. He's the general from Melech Hazor. How do you put together 600 chariots? Well, because you're charging a lot of tolls on the stuff that goes through. So this fellow over here, Yigal Yadin, right, the premier archaeologist from back in 50s, 60s. He's famous. Where's he sitting right now? Masada. He's famous for digging up Masada. So he also goes up to Hazor and he finds it's an artist's rendition of what he finds. Obviously, what is this? The entrance into the city. This is the gates. So when he comes to Hazor, what does he say? Well, he starts digging around and he says, this is the form that usually things take. So I'm going to have the towers and then I'm going to have 1, 2, 3, 4 chambers. But he thinks that perhaps this dates back to Shlomo HaMelech. So what's he going to look for? 6 chambers. So in fact, it looks like Megiddo, exactly. It looks like the guy took the blueprints from Megiddo and he doubled it up over in Hazor. Look at this. Here, do I have a better one? Where is it? You can see from, here's the towers, and then 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Let's do that. There we go. Towers. This is left over from 3,000 years ago. You got the towers, the foundation of the towers, then 1 chamber, 2, 3, 4, 6 chambers. The enemy would have to come through here. Very, very cool. This looks exactly like it's the same blueprint as this Shlomo HaMelech's doing. So, and let's also go through. So this is what Yigal Yadin writes in his book on Hazor. He says, I even remember vividly the gimmick used to impress our laborers even before the contours and plan of the gates became clear. We traced the plan of Megiddo gate on the ground, marking it with pegs to denote corners and walls, and then instructed our laborers to dig according to the marking, promising, here you'll find a wall, or there you'll find a chamber. When our prophecies proved correct, our prestige went up tremendously, and we were regarded as wizards. Yadin's just copying, right? He's just copying Megiddo. Yeah, but look what happens next. It's funny. However, our workers, mostly elderly Jews who had recently immigrated from North Africa, were well versed in the Bible. So when we read them the biblical verse about Solomon's Hazor, Megiddo, and Gezer, our prestige took a dive. But out of the Bible rose sky high. Cute, huh? So He had a sense of humor, and he was honest, and he was a good guy. He was the commander-in-chief of the army in 1948. Yigalia did. Once the war was over, he said he wants to go back to his books. These unbelievable, we had unbelievable blessing for God. Our leaders in 1948 were just not career politicians. They were there to help the Jewish people. Fantastic. Okay, so he's saying what? He's saying, look, I have a pasuk that we started out with that has Megiddo, Gezer, Hazor. He says they must be the same person who built it. So what do we have to do? We saw Megiddo, we saw Hazor. Let's go to Gezer. Where's Gezer? He says, this is Megiddo. This is Hazor, same exact thing. He says Gezer, let's take a look at Gezer. Gezer is almost the same exact thing. A little bit smaller, but for the most part, the same thing. Let's go to Gezer. Where's Gezer? Right here in the middle of the country. All right. If you're coming up from Aza or Yafo, you'd probably come, or Aza better, you're going to come up right through Gezer, and then you hit a little bit of a valley, and you're going to take a turn and go up towards Yerushalayim. If you control Gezer, you control also the middle of the country, particularly over here. I'm sitting now in Gezer. I'm looking at this beautiful valley. Here's the hills of Jerusalem. This valley is called Emek Ayalon. Ayalon, yeah. Where's Emek Ayalon famous from? Yehoshua. Shemesh begivon dom v'yerech be'emek Ayalon. Yehoshua stops the sun right over here. So wait a second. So if I'm doing this, again, I'm taking a look from Gezer. I'm high up, and I'm looking out over the valley, and the road goes right below this place. Here, if I'm looking out this is the trestle from the fast train. If I'm looking at Emek Ayalon, right over here, this is Modi'in. This little town over here is Nof Ayalon, which means the view of Ayalon, which is where I live, which in a couple of weeks will be there, sitting in right about over here in my backyard. And I'm giving out now an invitation to all of you. Please come and visit us. We'll sit in the backyard. We'll look at the Emek Ayalon. It'll be fun. So please come and visit. This is actually my yeshuv. In my yeshuv, where I live, if you stand on the mountain, you could see here's highway. This is Highway 1 and Highway 1 going into Sharagai up towards Jerusalem. And all this is the valley. Here's the trains. This is Emek Ayalon. Okay. I live right here. And then you can see out into the valley. In other words, this is what I see from my backyard. Okay, so you're all invited. We'll have a good time. All right. You tell me what you want. Tell me before. Got coffee, tea, some schnapps. This is vineyards, karamot, vineyards. And these are the hills of Jerusalem. This is where I'm in my backyard. Okay, to prove the point. You ready? That's Elisa, my wife Elisa. She's on the phone. And this is the valley.
That's impressive. You have a machine or by hand?
My son. By my son. With a machine, yeah. That's what you have kids for, right? Obviously, put them to work. This is over here is a vineyard, a vine, has grapes. We got 18 bottles of wine from this one little vine over here. It covers over the whole thing. You sit underneath it. Oh, mein olam haba. Okay, anyway, Gezer was actually dug up. It was dug up in 1909 the first time. Strange way, they didn't do archaeology like today. What they did is, it was the beginning of archaeology. The guy took and he just dug out, he just like chewed up a whole thing, an area so he could look down what was here, the different strata. Problem is, when you go ahead and bulldoze out this stuff and dump it on the side, anything you find it's not in situ. It's not in its place. You don't know how to date it, even though you could claim it's something, but you don't have the proof. This is actually in Gezer. Well, I don't know what he found over here. It was just on the hill. He started digging it up. This is a guy in 1909 named McAllister, Scottish fellow. So that's what they did in those days. So they've gotten more. You have to do it, patch by patch. This guy McAllister, so he found something like an area, this area, and he said he found. So what happened? What did Yigalia didn't do? McAllister wrote up his notes in 1909. Yadin comes, gets hold of the notes. He starts reading through it. McAllister writes, I found a huge structure. And I believe that it's a Hasmonean palace. And where it's situated, right? And Yadin looks at it and he says, that's no palace. What is it, obviously? It's the gates to the city. That's going to be Shlomo HaMelech's gates. So he actually does come in and he digs up the other side. And what do you got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And the tower. So what he found over here was the third gate. That's Gezer. And therefore, says Yadin, and this is the matter of the tax. The King Solomon put Temple of the Lord, Milo, and Hazor, Megiddo, and Gezer. Why? Because that's the places that they fortified with the 6 chamber gates. And because he understood that he has to hold on to these areas because they were the key to the valleys that were on the other side. And this is an example of nowadays with a lot of work, but a lot of understanding of the country, how it works in the archaeology. We possibly have an understanding what Shlomo HaMelech had in mind when he actually built these guys. So that's one part. How you guys doing? Just a little bit more? Yeah? Take a break or what? Go ahead. I'll try to do, let's say, I'm not gonna, 15 minutes, okay? I'll just show you one more thing, which is very cool. And let's go. I'll do this one quickly. We're gonna go over here. Anybody know where we are? Obviously on this mountain, looking out over the Kinneret. This, my friends, is the famous Har Arbel. Har Arbel, from the top, you look out towards the Kinneret over here. It's like a cliff, but there are places that you actually could get through the cliff. It's a lot of fun. They take elementary school to climb down the cliff. You go down like something like that. Where is this? Oh, I'll show you in a second. Okay, I'll show you on the map. This is right next to Tiberia, looking at the Kinneret. This is myself, Elisa, and my oldest granddaughter. So we took her on a bat mitzvah. We went up north for 3 days. Here she's climbing down the mountain, and Elisa will kill me, but there's Elisa climbing down the mountain. And this is what we do for fun in Eretz Yisrael. So you can see you're going to climb down. Eventually we'll get down over here, and then we'll go down the hill. Okay, this is where it's found. Arbel. Arbel is right on the mountains that overlooking before you drop down towards the Kinneret, and Tiberia is going to be right over here. All right. Arbel and for many years in history, Arbel and the Tiberia were like one entity. So again, we had learned that you come up through here. This is what we did before, right? There's certain areas. There's another mountain pass, by the way, that goes right through here. You could see it. Goes right through here. Goes right underneath Har Arbel. This mountain pass over here. This was if Nazareth is over here, and what's up over here? Ginosar is over here. So the Christians like to walk this from Nazareth up to Ginosar and Tabcha and Kfar Nachum, which is Capernaum. This is where they say is the beginning of their religion. So they call this the Jesus Trail. They like to walk it. They come over here below Arbel. Why? Because if you're looking over here, this is Har Arbel. This is what's called Har Nitai. And the Mishnah quotes a fellow named Nitai Ha'arbeli, a guy named Nitai who came from Arbel. This is the antiquities of the old city. So in between these two mountains is where the mountain pass goes. It all comes around. So if you go to this, this is what it looked like originally when they came and undid the antiquities. They cleaned it out. But when they first found the antiquities, it looked a little bit like this. They've since then have stood up some of the stuff that was on the floor that because of earthquakes. What we have today is they recognize that this area, just because of these poles, is actually part of the old Beit Knesset of Arbel. Now, what's interesting about it, I want you to take a look. Okay, we have circles on the edge of this major door. This is an entranceway. What's fascinating is that if you take a look what's going on. You see, you have the molding over here on the side of the door. This door obviously is made out of stone. You got a molding, and look what happens right over here. Goes this way. You see that? Come up, and then goes this way. And same thing over here. It's not as pronounced. It comes up and it goes that way. This door had a major entrance, and then it had another door on this side and on this side. It's an entranceway to the shul, to the Beit Knesset, which has 3 doors. Why? Why would you make it with 3 doors? Okay. Now, another thing, if you go take a look, back in those days, this is what the Bate Knesset looked like. It wasn't like we think back to, this is from the Talmudic period. This is 1700 years ago. They didn't have the means, they didn't have the abilities. They built very fine Bate Knesset. Something like this would have been 25 meters tall. Now, if you think about it, they don't have government help. They don't have bulldozers. Like, no, who's putting it together? Who's going to build your Beit Knesset in your town? Where we are, right? The farmers, the people living. You're out in your field, you find a nice stone, you say, hey, this looks good for the Beit Knesset, you bring it back. Every once in a while, people would get together and start building. There are some archaeologists who suggest that a building like this would have taken anywhere from 25 years to 40 years to put together. So I heard a shiur by a fellow named Chagai Amitzor, Professor Chagai Amitzor, from archaeologists. He said, this is what he wanted to say about this Beit Knesset. He said, first of all, you should realize if you're building in those days this Beit Knesset, there is a chance that you might not even daven in this Beit Knesset. You might not even pray in the Beit Knesset. Who says you're going to live that long? Why are you building the Beit Knesset? For the next generations, for the kids. So Chagai Amitzor, Professor Amitzor, wants to suggest that there's something in this Beit Knesset. There's a riddle in it, and it's something that the builders wanted to pass on to the next generation. So one question we said, is that they had a 3-door entrance. Question number 1. Okay, we're back to this. Okay, another thing about this stone is, how would you build a doorway? How many pieces do you need to build a doorway? 3. You need the 2 doorposts, and then you put the lintel, and you got the mezuzot and the mashkof. This guy over here is built out of 1 piece of stone called a monolith. 1 piece of stone. That means you had to go dig it out, and it has attached to it another 2 doors. Meaning you got 3 doors made out of 1 piece of stone. You know how much that weighs? You know how much that costs? You know how much that would be to be able to move it? Like, why is it? Why did they do that? You have 1 door, 1 entrance, 3 doors made out of 1 piece of stone. That's 2 problems now. We don't understand. Why were they building like this? What was the message to their children? And it's interesting. Here's the courtyard. The major entrance is in this direction, going from the east towards the west. That's where this door is. That's the major entrance. What is this supposed to represent inside the Beit Knesset? The Eichal, yeah, the Aron Kodesh, the Eichal. Which direction? I'm coming from here, the east, going towards the west. That this is on the southern wall. Who built Aron, the Eichal, on the southern wall? Huh? Why would you build it on the southern wall? Where are we now? We're in Tiberia. We're in the north. Which way are you facing your Beit Knesset? Towards Jerusalem. So that's why you'll find that the Heichal is on the southern wall. So the question is that they put the major entrance on the east. Why would they do that? Usually what we do, let's travel around a little bit. Anybody? In the middle of Golan Heights, you can notice the darkness of the stone. What does that mean? It's a volcanic rock. The entire Golan Heights is a volcanic plateau. It's dormant now, but it's all volcanoes. This actually, the entrance is on, here's the Heichal looking towards the south. Entrance is either over here or where we're standing on the north. All right, you don't put your entrance on the east. Over here, anybody? Talmudic village in Katzrin, in the Golan Heights. Where's the Heichal? Someplace right over here. It's hard to see. Where's the entrance? On the north. We have our Heichal on the east. The entrance is on the west. Why do you put your entrance to your shul, to your Beit Knesset, on the east? So that's our question that we're going to have. We have 3 questions. Why in the ancient synagogue of Arbel do they, number 1, put the doorway on the east? Number 2, make it 1 big stone, a monolith. It's very expensive and very heavy. And number 3, why 3 doors within the same entranceway? 3 questions. Says Professor Amitzor, let's understand what's going on over here. What are we looking at again? This is the cliff of Har Arbel. This is Har Nitai. And this is the mountain pass. This is where people are walking to get to the Kinneret. Okay? So we have a story. Oh, first we got this guy. Nitai the Arbeli would say, distance yourself from a bad neighbor. Do not cleave to a wicked person. Do not abandon belief in retribution. Al titya ishmana paranut. What's he saying? Don't give up. Like he's in the time of Mishnayos. This is who's ruling the country? The Romans. Things are terrible. 70 CE, we have the destruction of the temple. It's now 130 years later when the Mishnah is put together. Nitai Arbel was beforehand, but he's saying, what's he saying? Don't give up. If things are bad, don't give up, right? Don't give up. This is the future of the Jewish people. Don't worry. Okay? So that's what he's passing down. Nitai Arbel lives in that area. So is that a little bit of the sentiment for the area around? Especially if you look at this. The Sanhedrin was exiled from Jerusalem in 10 stages at the end of the Second Temple period and after the destruction of the temple. It goes from Yerushalayim to Yavne, to Usha, then back to Yavne, then back to Usha, Shfar'am, Beit Sharim, Tzipori to Tiberia, and stays in Tiberia. Tiberia is right next to, where are we? Arbel. Tiberia is right next to Arbel. And Omar Rabbi Yochanan, Misham Atidin Ligael. That the redemption is going to come out of Tiberia. Arbel's connected into, it's the right one next to each other. So we know that what's going on over here? We know that this area, Rabbi Yochanan says, that's actually where for centuries, that's where the yeshiva of Eretz Yisrael was, in Tiberia. And Arbel's part of it's like the suburb of Tiberia. That's what's happening in these areas. We also have the story of Rabbi Chia the elder was walking through Arbel Valley at daybreak, and when they saw the first rays of dawn, Rabbi Chia the elder says to Rabbi Shimon ben Chalafta, such is Israel's redemption. At first, it comes slowly by slowly, like the sun coming up in the morning, and as it progresses, its light increases. Very cool. So everything is talking about the redemption. They're very focused on the redemption in that area. So that's one thing. Here's another story. I'll just translate as I go. Rabbi Yochanan was sitting and making a drasha in the Beit Knesset of Tzipori. And he says, in the future, Kadosh Baruch Hu is going to make an eastern gate to the Beit HaMikdash. The gateway itself and Shnei Pishpashav. What's the Pishpash? A small little doorway on the side. And he's going to make this 3-door entranceway, and which is going to be on the gate, the eastern gate of the Beis HaMikdash. And he's going to make it Even Achat Shel Margalit, one stone of pearl. And there was a certain guy there, a mocker, that was making fun of Rabbi Yochanan, and that same person, the mocker, he goes out on a trip, and his boat sinks at sea. And when he goes into the depths of the sea, he sees that the Malachei HaSharet are cutting up stones down there, and they're setting it up as far as they're making this eastern gate of the Beit HaMikdash. And then a nace happens to him, a miracle, and he comes out okay. The next year, Rabbi Yochanan's giving the same drasha, and everyone's mocking, making fun of Rabbi Yochanan. And this fellow who used to be a mocker, he says, you could laugh as much as you want, but I actually saw it with my own eyes. So you have the midrashim. Interesting story. It's either coming to literally, or coming to tell us a lesson. So what do we know? Wait a second. You're telling me that in the future, God's going to create an entrance to the Beit HaMikdash, which is going to put on the eastern side, that's made out of one stone, which has three doors at that entrance. Wait, so what do you think is happening? And let's take a look at it. And this is what you mentioned, Shir HaMa'alot. This is the Shir HaMa'alot. This is not the eastern. This is on the eastern side of entrance into the Azara. It's not. But you have over here one major door and the 2 pishpashim on either side. Wow. What do you think the people are saying over there when they're they're building a Beit Knesset? It's going to take them decades to build it. They don't even know if they're going to pray in it, but their kids are. What do you think they're saying to the kids? Nitai Arbeli, what does he say? Don't give up. Things are bad. There's the Romans here, but don't give up, because we know about the Jewish people. We're the eternal people. Look at the future of the Jewish people. So when they build their Beit Knesset, they get hold of one stone. It's made out of one stone, 3 doors to the entrance. Where do they put it? On the eastern side, not in the south or the north where they should have. And they're saying to their kids, there is a future for the Jewish people. Don't give up hope. And that's the message that from 1700 years ago still talks to us today. We're fortunate because we actually are today, we actually see it. But that was the message that they were giving to their children, a beautiful message that was passed down. Just to finish up real quick with some inspiration. If you go there today, you'll see that there's actually an entrance. Somebody put in a little bit of a walk and places to stand and see what's going on over there. And it's dedicated to a fellow named Sergeant Max Steinberg, fell in Gaza in 2014. What's that called? Sukeitan, 2014. One of my sons fought with that. He's a Golanchik. He fought in that war also. Max Steinberg. What's the story? Here's Max Steinberg. What's the story on him? He was on birthright. They were up on the Arbel mountain, and they told him the story about Rabbi Chia Gadol, who's walking, sees that the sun is coming up slowly, and that's the redemption of the Jewish people. And he was so taken by it. He was not connected to his Judaism at all. He was so taken by it. He says, this is the future. This is where I have to be with my people. Stayed in Israel, joined the army, joined the Golani, and unfortunately he was killed in 2014. When they brought him, the word got out in Jerusalem that when they brought him to burial in Har Herzl in Yerushalayim, the word got out. This is the Jewish people. The word got out that there's a lone soldier who's here from America that died, that was killed in action. We have to bury him. They said, he doesn't have any family here. You all have to come out to be at the Levaya. So the parents are being taken to the Levaya, and there's people walking on the streets of Yerushalayim. So they said to the ministry who brought him, the government, they said, what is it? It's like what's today? Is it a party day in Jerusalem? Why is everybody out on the streets? So they said, they're coming to give kavod to your son. 30,000 people came to that Levaya. That's the Jewish people. We're one mishpacha. This is his burial. Arbel, it's a great tour. I mentioned to you, this is where you walk in between. This is called below, Bikat Beit Arbel, the valley of the Arbel. You'd come from Natzrat, come through here towards the Kinneret. This is, again, if you control the valley, this goes back to the original theme. If you control the past, then you control everything around there. This is from the Ottoman Turks. But Rabbi the elder, remember that? He's walking through the Arbel Valley and he sees the first rays of dawn. He says, such is Israel's redemption, slowly but surely, but it comes on. We've all, thank God, witnessed we've witnessed what's been happening to our people and our state. And as it goes year after year after year, Baruch Hashem, look at the blessing that we have in Eretz Yisrael today. It starts from a nothing. The fact that we even existed was a miracle. And it's constant miracles that we continue. Slowly but surely. Why does God do it slowly but slowly? Why does he just go poof and make the redemption come? What do you think? All of my questions, everybody's answers is right. Why does God do it slowly? So they used to say, because it's like turning on the light, you wouldn't be able to appreciate everything that happened. You know what? I think, why is it slowly but surely? Because the Kadosh Baruch Hu wants to give us the opportunity to partner with him in building the land. It's a big mitzvah. That's how everything in life's like that. We're always just partnering with God. He doesn't just throw us, it's not manna from heaven. That's how life is. We have to work, and that's a good thing. We partner with the Kadosh Baruch Hu to build. Wherever we all love everything, wherever we might live, there's so much to be done in Eretz Yisrael that we could partner with. And therefore, just inspiration, we're now in Bikat Beit Arbel. We're looking at the Kinneret, the Golan Heights, and the sun's coming up slowly. And then it comes up even more so, and then it gets even stronger. And then Baruch Hashem, today we have something that we're very proud of, that there's what is given over to us to work with God, to continue to build. Baruch Hashem, we are seeing miracles in front of our very own eyes. So thank you very much. Thank you for letting me be able to learn together with you guys. Yeah. One piece of stone. Oh, there we go. Come back.